on my mobile.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler, episode number 230. Today's topic is one that we don't usually talk about here on WPwatercooler, but we thought we'd talk about it anyhow, and it is Design is King. Steve, thank you very much for the topic idea. We really appreciate it, and that you were able to come up with that all by yourself.
We couldn't get the Web King today?
I'm sorry, we tried, and the company's email address kept bouncing. It was really weird.
I think we're actually supposed to say design is the ruler and keep it gender neutral, but you know what else?
I also don't think
it was an intentional play on words.
I don't think we had the audio. I don't think we had the audio rights to the Web King's music. I think that's why he couldn't be on the show.
Yeah, we don't have the rights to that MIDI file. Yeah. Let's go around the room real quick. Get everyone introduced. Chris Ford, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Who are you people?
Chris Ford. I am the sole proprietor of Creativity Included, and I am actually in the middle of a rebrand to move away from client projects and start design coaching.
Nice.
And if you're in the Southern California area and you already have a ticket, I will be speaking at WordCamp Orange County on June 10th to 11th.
Yay!
Awesome. Good to have you on. How about you, Jason?
Hey, I'm Jason Cosper. I work at WP Engine as the developer advocate, and I will also be speaking at WordCamp Orange County.
We're seeing a pattern here. John, how about you?
I'm John Brown. I run a company called 9 Seeds that focuses on custom WordPress development and has managed to redesign its own website a couple times in the last 8 years with business. And like everybody else, I will be at WordCamp Orange County in a couple of months.
Yay!
Awesome. Robert, how about you?
My name's Robert Gilmer. I'm with Shiny 9 Web Design. I, too, will be at WordCamp Orange County, and I am now the lead organizer of WordCamp Las Vegas. Woohoo!
Sweet. Good to have you on. Russ, speaking of Vegas.
Yeah, hey, I'm Russ. I work at Web Dev Studios. I found out that I'm having a baby, so I handed WordCamp over to, thank you. I found out last week, I handed WordCamp over to Robert. He's going to do a familiar and awesome job with it. I will also be at Orange County. I will be speaking and in Plugin Palooza. Take that, everybody else.
Yay! Oh, yeah, Plugin Palooza.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Sarah, what about you?
Hi, I'm Sarah Weefald. I'm the production project person at Zeek Interactive, and I also facilitate the Orange County WordPress Design Meetup, which is the first Monday of each month. And I'm also on the organizing committee for WordCamp Orange County.
Yay!
Awesome. How about you, Say?
Hi. I just wanted to say it like that. That's so fun and bright. I don't know what that drum in the background is, but that's good.
Terrible.
I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, on all the things at Say Read Media. I will not be at WordCamp Orange County because that's my birthday.
Oh.
Not that I don't totally want to spend my birthday with all of you guys, because I do, but I don't want to spend my birthday at the Cove. I just don't want to spend it in Orange County.
But all your friends are going to be there.
And
not all of them. There's a contingent outside of WordPress.
We are your only friends there.
Say is a Gemini. Say is a Gemini.
The after party.
Which explains everything.
It explains all the things.
I was going to say, do we have to cancel the after party title to after party / Say's birthday? Now we have to get rid of that?
Well, maybe I'll come to the after party.
We got to change the banner. Steve, what about you, man?
I am Steve Zink, I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive. I lead the OC WordPress Meetup, and I am the lead organizer of WordCamp Orange County, which will be June 10th and 11th. And we're working on a T-shirt cannon.
Woohoo! Awesome. T-shirt cannon. It's going to be awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter, and my blog is jasontucker.blog. I also do another podcast here on the WP Watercooler Network called WP Blab. We do that on Thursdays at 7 o'clock at our new time.
We have a network here? WP Watercooler is a network?
We have a network. We have 3 different shows on those networks.
Did you get your royalties? Oh, wait, shit. Was I not supposed to say that?
I can't split $8, okay? $8 is really difficult to split.
I didn't sign my video release. Is that going to be a problem, Jason?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it is. Your face is going to be all blah, blah, blah.
Your mom's face is going to be all blah, 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 blah.
Like, for the longest time, Steve didn't even know that this was being streamed on the internet. He just thought we were all hanging out and talking. So it's really cool that he was actually able to figure out that this is a podcast and it's on YouTube as well.
Jason, you never told me that.
So let's talk a little bit about design is king. So I actually was the one kind of coming up with this topic and figuring it out. Steve's the one that came up with the awesome title for it. And what we wanted to kind of discuss a little bit is, you always have those people's websites that you go onto their site and they're a web designer or a web developer, and their website's awful looking. And you're just thinking, wow, you still have the marquee tag on there. You still have all this stuff that's on there. And you're just like, oh my gosh, really? The blink and marquee? And it's just like, wow.
The counter in the footer.
There's a button on the corner that says, look at this in VRML, like whatever it is, way back in the day.
Wait, but the key thing to know is that they're not being ironic about it.
Right, exactly. They're not.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. So what I'm curious about is, do those types of sites still convert? Are you still getting people to actually become your customers? And if you have a really good looking web design, are you scaring them because it's so good looking that you're just like, oh, I wasn't looking to have a Facebook built for me.
Yeah,
I was looking for something else.
I have a cool site. I just put it in the show notes. It's actually from a little bit a while ago. You guys can all check it out there. It's on WP Engine. It's great.
Dang, that's awesome. Good job. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Please do.
So, I know that you guys, especially you were saying, John, earlier that you've redesigned your site a few times. What was the reasoning why you wanted to redesign it? And is it something because you weren't getting enough customers, or you just wanted to change it up, or were you cowboy coding one night? What was going on?
Well, cowboy coding one night was probably how it started. But no, we had identified that our site looked dated, and that was probably discouraging clients, but that was the issue. The dirty secret is that we then started that, turned it into an internal skunkworks project where we're going to be really fancy with how we did it, and we're going to use a bunch of new tools for it. And I think I worked on it for 18 months, maybe 2 years before it finally launched. Then it was what the heck? Because it was always a back burner project, right? It's that whole thing where if you had all the budget in the world and you had all the time in the world, you'd love to throw a team on it for a couple weeks and just knock it out. But I think most creative agencies, especially the small ones, they don't have the
John,
to dedicate to it.
John, this thing looks great, man. I remember the old 9seed site, and this thing just looks amazing.
I think really honestly, it's not just a matter of money and time in terms of you want a team to send that to, but when it's your own site, this is what I find all the time. I'm like, wait, but I want to use this thing and I want to use this thing. I'm like my own client from hell trying to fit all the things on there. And that's you also want it to be perfect because it's your thing.
And then usually the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And in this case, it was we started off with SAS and Grunt, and then we're oh, let's switch to Gulp and all of these backend technologies that were let's build it this way. And then it was nobody could work on it because nobody knew that stuff back then.
Right. You just try it out. You're I'm going to use this. My main site has 75 plugins in it. It's really bad because I use it as my test land for everything. And it's just no one should ever look at that site. That's
but that's the thing is that if you are trying to get customers, clients, because of, you have a great looking website, no one's going to want to, be your client because they're going to look at it and say, gosh, this is awful. You can't even make your own website look good. And you look in the portfolio and you're like, wow, the portfolio is great. But do you not have enough time to spend a little bit of marketing efforts to make your site look good?
Well, I mean,
people don't even get to the portfolio if the site is too ugly. They just move away.
Or if it's built in Shockwave, right?
Just a CTA screen where it's I do great work. Contact me. Here's a dribble link. I'd rather see that than a really crappy website.
Yep.
When we were planning ours out, that was actually a big
Sarah,
thing.
what do you have to say about this?
Sarah?
Thank you. So, I
see what I think is.
Sarah?
Sorry.
So I feel there's an impulse when you're trying to build an agency site to kind of throw everything that you possibly can at it because you feel you're talking to other developers. So I should have all of the most cutting edge technology and I should be using all the latest JavaScript frameworks because that's the hot newness, right? But what it really comes down to is that when people are coming to your website, they don't really care about that. They want to find out how what you do is going to solve their problem. They don't really care about you at all.
Well, that's a good point. Like when we planned out our redesign, like we talked about it. Like the back end stuff was because we're geeks at heart, we're developers at heart. But in terms of planning the site, like we recognize that the clients we talk to, we sell. And that for us, getting in contact with them and scheduling a call was the critical aspect. So if they went,
how many people plan it though? How many people do you know who are designers who just like fire up whatever they prototype a site in and start designing without even thinking about it?
Oh, a lot do that. But for us, it was like deliberate. If they went to our portfolio, they saw examples, we wanted to minimize that because we just wanted to talk to them about what their exact needs were, and we knew that's how we converted. That's why our site is just a big giant call to action. You can dig into it. But
I'm going to speak to the designers in the room for a minute. Form follows function, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So so what you do first is decide what is your purpose, right? What are you designing? What are you trying to do? What does your sales funnel look like? So where are you trying to drive your traffic? What is your call to action? And that's what you have to define first before you start to apply design to it. So if you start designing first, you've missed a big step.
The site that I have right now is pretty outdated, but I'm kind of proud of the fact that when I designed it, I went through the same process I did with my clients, and it didn't start sucking until 5 years later when it's just, you know, the style. It's been up for 5 years, and I just got to the point where I'm like, I really kind of need to update this thing. It doesn't reflect who I am as a designer anymore and what the priorities of my business are anymore.
Maybe that's part of it too, you know, because I feel like we as tech people have to keep learning so much. As designers, things are changing. Like, this is a really fast moving industry. We all know that. So, you know, our sites are out of date in, like, especially in our minds, for after 6 months or a year. So because it's hard to keep up with that, with our own knowledge, our own trends, our own skill sets, I think that that's part of it. I just kind of like, you know, I'll just leave it over there. It's fine. I don't need any more clients anyway.
Wait. Is this truly a fast-moving industry?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you? Is yours? I don't know.
I don't know that I buy into that, right? Because I'm thinking about putting myself in our clients' shoes. Right? Yeah. Our clients do not consider this a fast-moving industry, and that's
they don't.
That is not true. I have to completely disagree with that. All of my clients are like, I don't
maybe from a technology aspect it's fast moving, but good design has been good design since Massimo Vignelli came.
What is our primary tool for design? Right.
Fast moving and overwhelming technically are different things.
What is the primary tool for design? It's Photoshop, right? How long has Photoshop been around?
Since the dawn of time.
Since I was in high school.
Wow. Okay.
True facts.
So we actually at WebDev, we use this thing called like Invisalign or something like that, where we mock up.
Those are braces.
That's the clear.
Okay. Anyway, so we mock up everything over there, and like it's not really Photoshop as much as like it's a wireframe, and it's something that
it's a prototyping application,
right?
Yeah. So we prototype everything there. We get approval, and then we'll start the design process. But I mean, I think even we put like a month and a half into doing that and getting all that laid out before we write one line of code.
And that is the planning process, which is not always, but which is often missed.
Well, I think it's actually often missed for our own sites. I think maybe that's what Chris was saying we don't do, but I think I do. I'm just like, just put it together. I don't necessarily take that time to do it because, you know.
I think that the planning process is critical, and you're right to call it out, Steve, but I think of it as part of the design process.
Yeah.
Like, I think of that as the beginning of the design process. So when you say, don't start with the design, I think you do start with the design, but the first phase of design is prototyping,
discovery. No, the first phase of design is discovery.
Right.
Yes.
You are right. You are right, John. Yes. It is part of the process.
But until you talk to the client and you find out what their business needs are, and you sit down with, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have an entire team talk about why they want to do what they do, it doesn't make any sense to even prototype, because you don't know, you're stumbling around in a dark room trying to hit the right light switch and you don't have any idea where to go.
But
Okay,
the thing is that the topic today is about the other side of it, is that you are trying to attract a client by having a site that actually looks good, that actually has some functionality to it, that maybe has a contact form that somebody could fill out so they can actually contact you, might have your phone number in the corner, might have some of these things in here where if you're not looking at your own site, you're kind of going like, oh man, like, why am I not getting any leads? Well, it's probably because your website isn't that great and you haven't spent any time being your own client, kind of optimizing that site.
Now, I don't know. The Web King might be getting different kinds of leads, right? That Zeke doesn't attract, right? There's an ass for every seat.
The thing also is that clients don't know that what is necessarily good design. So they see someone's site out there and they're like, well, they assume they're doing well. They don't even know if they're doing it right or whatever, but they're like, that site looks good. And so I want to be like that person. And so that they want to go in that direction, even though that might not be a good site. And that can be really frustrating.
So, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the chat. I apologize to our audience.
I'm ignoring the chat.
Somebody who is going to buy from somebody who has a crappy designed website, maybe shopping for price, right? So they may be looking for a couple $100 website that is just not the right fit for an agency.
Well, I also think though that, when you think of plugins and you go to see an example of a plugin, maybe they're just using a generic, underscores theme to demonstrate the functionality of the plugin. So maybe that site doesn't need to be, the most amazing thing built on Divi or whatever it is, because it's showing the functionality of the plugin, not so much the site,
Right. Well, and that's an interesting thing. I think somebody said it, the clients aren't coming to your site looking for really cool bells and whistles sometimes, because you build basic things. We've had clients who are like, oh my God, your form is so amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's a conditional gravity form. It's really not fancy. But they're not looking for the things that we are as cutting edge developers, right? We're like, oh, we're gonna do all this really cool stuff. I'm gonna build my whole farm as a front end React app. Well, clients don't care.
No.
Yeah, clients also don't care. It's really frustrating if you can have the awesomest back end and you can be like, this is going to solve all these business problems. They're like, yeah, that's nice, but can you make that a little different?
I have the awesomest back end.
No. You definitely do not.
For some weird reason, it's in one of those seats you mentioned, right?
Nothing.
Oh, I derailed her.
It's just yeah. Hey, Sarah, didn't you have a story you were going to tell?
Yeah, I mean, when I was freelancing.
Yeah,
So I had someone I was working with locally that they came to me and they had a very sort of Web 1.0 website where everything was on every single function of the site was within the 800 by 600 pixel sort of window that we were using maybe 10 years ago. And I tried to say okay, here's a streamlined way we can just sort all of this out. And I showed her some of the preliminaries and she hated it and parted ways with me. And I checked the site the other day and it still looks exactly the same. And it's just one of those things where I just not that it makes me question my design aesthetic, and it's not I assume that my design all those years ago was perfect, but does bad design still work for people? And what is the threshold at which people feel compelled to change their ways?
I think
that's a pretty deep question. Just point that out. We could get really deep into that.
I think there's also that thing though, to your credit, Sarah, is saying we want to help you, and I think a lot of the times we say, let's just put something up, let's get version 1.0 up, and then we'll build on later. And I think a lot of the time it's saying, how does this person want to portray their business? And maybe they don't even know. So how do you help somebody like that,
Often they don't know, I would argue, in fact.
But
the designer's job is client education. If you can't pitch your ideas, if you can't talk to a client and tell them why it's a bad idea to have bad design, you're not much of a designer. I mean, that's your number one job, is to be able to talk to a client. That's when I became a good designer. When I was a younger designer, it was like, shut up, it's cool, you don't know what you're talking about.
Totally,
you know?
Totally agree,
Right,
but
because
there are some clients out there that just don't value it.
Yeah.
They don't, and they will actually challenge it. They'll be like, no, I want it like this because this makes sense to my brain.
You're charging what for design? You guys just put go in the Photoshop filter.
Hopefully
that's
nail
like 5
that
minutes worth of work.
Talking to him before you sign a contract and you can nope out of it.
One thing that Chris Lemma said in WordCamp Reno in 2013 that has always stuck with me is that you're not building your site for you, you're building your site for your clients, or you're not building your client site for them, you're building your client site for their clients.
It's for your customers' customer.
That has always stuck in the back of my head.
There's other distinction here,
like
which
some
is that
glue gun.
you're building a site to be effective, not pretty, right? Like, ultimately, the site has to have a functional purpose that's effectiveness in reaching a customer. And you have to convey that to the clients that, no, we're doing this because this is going to work, not because it's going to look good when you go look at it. The client's opinion is about the least important.
I would much rather have a site that functioned and processed my payments instead of looking amazing and did nothing.
But why are those mutually exclusive? Why do we talk
They're
like
not.
you can pick one or the other?
They're
because
not,
I
they're-
hear that a lot, where I would rather have it function than look good. Why can't you meet in the middle?
Well, because we're not Chris Ford.
I also,
seriously, you have amazing talent. But the point is that there's a hierarchy, and you can't just look at pretty in the eyes of the client. You have to convey what is effective for the client.
Well,
Wait,
one
are
of the
you saying
things
it's
that I
not just, we shouldn't just be judging by looks? We should be
There have been studies, though,
into what's actually happening. That's like mind blowing.
There have been studies, though, that people trust products that look good more than products that look like hell. You know,
Right.
where people look at good design and they have automatic trust in your product or service because you look like you know what the hell you're doing.
Where good design services effectiveness, absolutely. But pretty for pretty's sake doesn't.
Yeah.
Cosper.
Although
Yeah,
sometimes I miss that theory of design because it seems like sometimes I feel like designers wanted a seat at the table so much that we minimized the way things look.
Cosper.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, like, I'll admit I'm hella shallow when it comes to picking plugins, themes, etc., based on how the site looks, how the WordPress.org plugin page looks for an actual plugin. Just if it looks, outside of the README, but also if that header graphic looks juvenile and kind of like shit. Sorry, Jason, for the explicit tag.
It speaks to the professionalism, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Impressions are everything.
I think an attention to detail matters, and that attention to detail means a lot to me. And if they don't have enough attention to detail to at least try to make something look good, I mean, just like lean on some cheap ass material design and try to, like plain, bright color something instead of this weird, monkey logo that you've had your cousin draw up like 6 years ago.
I don't think that's shallow at all. I think that's typical.
And it kind of goes back to something that one of my my writing professors taught me in college, is that if you can structure everything so that when you read through it, it looks really slick, it doesn't really matter if you don't totally prove your point, because everyone's going to come away thinking like, wow, this person can write, they can tell a story. And it's kind of the same thing with your design. Like, if you can make sure that all of your design is totally buttoned down, that all of the information that your customer or whoever is looking at your site needs is there without them having to lift a finger to really find it, they're going to be like, wow, this person knows what they're doing. They can really solve my problem.
It's like if you dress up for a talk, you know, people are automatically assuming that you have your crap together more so than if you go up there, you know, wearing slouchy jeans and a hoodie. They're just going to, well, unless you're a tech guy, I guess that's not true at all. If you're a woman, I would say if you're dressed up, they're going to give you more credit. So it's people are.
That is a gender neutral comment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good, gender neutral. I just was thinking about, you know, Zuckerberg.
I just want to back up for a second and saying that to my point of I'd rather have function over design is I'm looking at like my monthly mortgage and like what I have to pay, and I would rather have it work and then build the design over time instead of having, you know, dumping all this money into design and then not being able to make that. I clearly understand how important design is and having a good product and brand trust. But like at the end of the day, as long as you're making money, you can keep designing away later on down the road. That's what I was getting at, Chris.
Money over design.
And I think it's a balance, right? It really, I think you need both function and good design for a good user experience.
Well, I mean, isn't that specifically what UI design is? Like, that is what
I think so.
So, you know, if you have good UI, that is because your functionality and your form are working together. That's it. And I'm actually excited because I feel like we're finally moving into a world where that is really getting the focus that it deserves and needs, and that's become those principles are becoming more widespread, and things are getting cooler and operating better.
I read something on Twitter the other day that in the next 5 years, user experience is going to be the main differentiator, even more so than features over products.
Well, because there aren't a lot of new ideas anymore. So execution is what matters.
100%. Yeah, it's like, which app do you use to order dinner? It's like, which one's easier? Which one do you have to push less buttons in? Which one remembers your stuff? Like that, if they do the exact same thing, especially with apps, because there's so many apps that do the same thing. When I was just recommending an accounting app for a client this week. And, you know, I'm like, which one works better for you? Because they basically all have the same stuff. Which one clicks with your brain? And that's how people are making decisions.
I got to tell you, I checked out WP Forms this week. So speaking about design, right? So I am a diehard Gravity Forms user. I have been for a long time. But I checked out WP Forms, and it does kind of, there's a lot of the same features, there's a lot of the same things, but WP Forms has a much better user experience. I'm sold.
Wow, see, you say that, and I'm like, I gotta go try that out because it's not the functionality. I've got the functionality, but if I could get my drag and drop and my time shaved down on, you know, how long it takes me to build that form, I'm jumping ship. Sorry, guys.
Check it. I'm telling you, check it out.
I'm gonna. Okay, bye.
That's it. That's all I got.
Well, I'm hoping that folks that are watching this episode that are either starting out with their own web development companies, they're trying to build out an agency and they have a bunch of people that are working with them, or they're just somebody who's a great coder but they're a horrible designer. They go out and find a designer and spend some time and energy being your own client and really building your own site so it looks good and it attracts people to come to your company and say, you know what, not only do you build great functionality, but you also have a good design, and maybe I should hire you to kind of work on my project.
Well, I would venture to say that you don't actually need to spend all that money on design anyway, because there's these things called themes that like work with WordPress sites that like kind of are like well designed already.
Right.
And don't be afraid to talk to someone about trading, because a lot of designers aren't very technical. And in the past, I've said, hey, you suck at design, I suck at code, let's swap. So I don't spend 8 hours trying to do something simple the same way you're spending 8 hours trying to do something simple. We can, you know, I'll take on your design for X amount of your hours, and
is that like a sex swap?
And to your point, Chris, and to Cosper's point earlier, I was going to say to the plugin developers that listen to the show, both of them, have somebody outside of your organization take a look at how you're presenting your plugin within the codex. Is it called the codex anymore? Within the codex, because first impressions matter, and if you get the feedback that you don't have the right first impression, partner with a designer.
Yep. Exactly. Well, that's about it, folks. It's 11:30. I want to say thank you very much for all of you for being on the show today and hanging out with us, talking a little bit about design. We don't talk about design all that much on WP Watercooler, so I wanted to make sure we can get on here and kind of talk a little bit about that. You can go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com, click on the links there to subscribe. If you like this particular episode, hit the thumbs up button. We really appreciate it. Steve's just, he's pointing at all different directions. I don't know. Good luck clicking on any of those things he's playing at. But yeah, make sure you do all that fun stuff. And if you like this particular content, we do this as well on Thursdays. You can go check out that over at WP Lab. All right, guys. Talk to y'all later.
On the WP Watercooler network.
It is a network.
Happy weekend.
Bye.